You know we love Jane and Maurice. And you know that you could have gave them kids to us. And we would have took care of them. I want you to suffer just like I'm suffering right now.
The woman shown in this footage is the grandmother of two young boys who were later shot by their own mother, Tiffany. What began as a normal day quickly turned into a terrifying situation. Neighbors saw Tiffany run out of her house, screaming that her children were dying. Moments later, she collapsed in a neighbor's driveway. When one of the neighbors went inside to check on the kids, he was stunned. The two boys were lying on a bed, covered in blood, but they were still alive and breathing. The neighbor's husband quickly called 911 to report the emergency. The situation inside the home was tense and chaotic. The neighbor stayed with the children and tried to help until police officers arrived. When officers got to the scene, they arrested the mother and immediately began trying to understand what had happened. After receiving a medical check, she was placed under observation. During that time, officers noticed unusual behavior that made them suspect she might have been under the influence of some kind of substance, although no tests were performed. After that incident, there were no additional criminal records for several years, until the recent charges accusing her of killing her two young sons. Even with this information, many details remained unclear. Detectives continued asking questions, but many of her answers only raised more concerns. Eventually, the detective decided to take a firmer approach during the questioning in hopes of finally getting clear answers. Tiffany's relatives were devastated by what had happened. They were grieving the loss of the children and made it clear they wanted the harshest punishment possible. Although Tiffany was ultimately charged with 2 counts of murder, the case also raises serious questions about parenting, mental health, and family dynamics. It also serves as a powerful reminder that even homes that appear stable from the outside may be dealing with hidden struggles. No one can fully understand why a parent would commit such a tragic act, but sometimes there are warning signs that, if recognized early enough, could allow someone to step in before things spiral out of control. Cases like this highlight the importance of awareness, strong support systems for parents who may be struggling, and the need to recognize warning signs before a tragedy occurs. Let me share a case that shocked an entire community. This is the tragic story of 2 young boys whose lives ended unexpectedly. The woman you saw earlier is their grandmother. Her pain reveals the devastation of this case. Reports indicate that the boys were shot by their own mother. Picture this: a normal day in a quiet neighborhood suddenly turned chaotic. Neighbors saw Tiffany, the mother, running out of her house, screaming that her children were dying. Moments later, she collapsed in a neighbor's driveway. Neighbors rushed to help, and one entered the house, witnessing a scene he would never forget. 2 young boys lay on a bed, blood everywhere, yet somehow still breathing. The neighbor realized the gravity of the situation and called 911. Within minutes, the neighborhood transformed into an emergency scene, with police and responders arriving swiftly. The neighbor stayed with the children, trying to comfort them until help arrived. When police got there, they arrested the boy's mother, but questions began to arise. Why would a mother harm her own children? During questioning, Tiffany appeared emotionally distant, not reacting as expected. After a medical checkup, officers kept her under observation, noticing her strange behavior. Some suspected substance influence, but no tests were conducted. As detectives investigated, they uncovered Tiffany's past. Just a few years earlier, she had owned a convenience store, a life that seemed normal. However, records showed the store closed in 2017, and a year later, she pleaded guilty to drug charges, serving 30 days in jail. After that, no major criminal records until this case. Eventually, she was charged with killing her 2 young sons. This raises a critical question. How does this happen? How does a normal family life turn into tragedy? The truth is, such cases are rarely simple. They often hide layers of issues: mental health struggles, stress, isolation, substance abuse, and financial pressure. One thing is clear: children rely on adults for safety, and when that protection fails, the consequences can be devastating. Cases like this serve as warnings for families and communities. Tragedies often don't happen overnight. There are warning signs. Changes in behavior, overwhelmed parents, and children showing distress can be overlooked. Awareness is crucial. Communities must look out for one another. Neighbors, friends, teachers, and family members matter. Sometimes, one conversation can change everything. Parents need support too. Raising children is challenging, filled with stress and responsibilities. Asking for help is not a weakness, it's a strength. Resources like counselors, community programs, and mental health services exist to help families before reaching a breaking point. Mental health is as vital as physical health. Struggles with anxiety, depression, or emotional distress should be taken seriously. Ignoring these issues can lead to unpredictable outcomes. Early intervention can save lives. Tragedies like this leave behind grieving families and communities searching for answers. They leave behind innocent lives lost too soon. The grandmother expressed pain, loss, and a lifetime of unanswered questions. While we cannot change the past, we can learn from it. We can pay closer attention, support struggling parents, and protect the children who depend on us. Every child deserves to grow up safe, feel protected, and have a future. Stories like this remind us that awareness, compassion, and community support can make a difference. Sometimes, that difference can save a life.